I have one hot take here. What is one software tool that event caterers do not need that they almost all have, or many of them have?
Wait, what is it? I don't know.
Hey y'all, welcome to the FlashQuotes podcast, the number one pod for mobile event and service businesses. We are hanging out today with Zach and Justin and gonna dig into an exciting topic, which is a deep dive into all of the systems to help you completely dominate, whether you're just starting out or you're full-fledged advanced caterer operator. We want to give you the tools to kill it. So just to give you a sense of what you should expect for this episode, we're going to go through the software you need, the must-haves, the software that is just like a total waste of money and a waste of your time, just a complete money suck for you, and then which tools are really specifically beneficial for mobile event businesses and entrepreneurs, the ones that are really going to help you level up, grow your business, exceed customer expectations, help you build revenue, pay yourself and your team really well. So with that, let's jump in. I mean, Justin, I know you are the master tinkerer ever since I've known you, which is 20 plus years. You love to tinker and play. If people go to your warehouses, you've got 3D printers that I'm sure you wrote off as a business expense, but that may not be, quite right. I'm sure you play with them in lots of different ways. Tell us a little bit about just early journey with software. I mean, what's been going through your head through the Goodheart journey as it relates to tools?
Yeah, I mean, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars, maybe 20s of thousands. I don't know. I've spent a lot of money on different softwares. I've spent hundreds of hours trying to calibrate and set up those softwares for optimum efficiency and revenue. And I mean, if you listen and stick to this episode till the end, you'll really hear kind of which ones we really believe in and which ones work and which ones don't. I think the first thing about software, there's a few different levels, right? There's kind of the beginner must-haves, the intermediate tools that can help, and then the advanced tools that aren't necessarily for everyone, but that can really be beneficial for those that are going to the next level. And if you don't know, or if this is your first time listening to the FlashQuotes podcast, I'm the owner of Goodheart Coffee, as well as the co-founder of FlashQuotes. We're on track to do 4,000 events this year. We've got 57 coffee carts in 6 cities, and I really walk the walk and talk the talk, and I'm in the trenches with this stuff, and so this isn't just speculation or opinion of an armchair expert, but I really count on this stuff to run my business successfully.
I would add that one of the most common questions we get is like, FlashQuotes is great, but like, what else do I need to kind of round out my technology stack for my business? Justin, you started with your spreadsheet. We told that story on like the first podcast of you were searching and you couldn't find like a good brain for your business to track your quotes and your leads and your events and so forth. So that's where FlashQuotes fits in, as the kind of the center. But there's a bunch of peripheral tools that you use. A lot of people are curious to hear about how they work and how they fit in with the FlashQuotes picture and what we recommend and what we don't. So that's kind of the idea here, is we'll give you the whole spiel on all the software and what we suggest.
Yeah. And one thing I will say is all of these tools, one of the most basic requirements of any new tool that I add, any new piece of software I add, is that it must have Zapier integration. If you don't know what Zapier is, it's a software that allows you to have all of your softwares talk to each other in an easy no-code way. You don't have to be a software engineer. You can go in and configure things so that everything will talk. So, of course, FlashQuotes has Zapier integration. So anytime a new lead or new booking comes in, I am sending that information into all sorts of different places to communicate things to my team, to update maybe an internal spreadsheet or an internal doc, to create another automation, could be a communication with someone specific, or all that sort of stuff. So all of these softwares will have Zapier integration, as does FlashQuotes, of course. So yeah, just wanted to mention that.
Nice. So maybe we start out with early stage, what you need if you're just getting started, if you're trying to think about the tools for your new business and your mobile event business. How should you think about the tools? What should you avoid? What are the definite must-haves to get things done? And I think we have some general themes or categories, but if you imagine the holistic journey and kind of a view where most of your leads are coming from a website or maybe some online presence like Instagram, but they're coming through on the internet. You have this early journey. You need somebody to be able to visit and see what you offer. They need to be able to actually request a quote and receive it, book it. And then you need to talk to them. You need a mechanism through which you actually engage with them. And then you have to have mechanisms for invoicing and collecting payment, and then follow up after the fact and after the event is over. So maybe we kind of break it down and layer it onto that journey, Justin, with kind of your thinking on beginner tools. I mean, starting, I guess, with website and then the mechanisms along the way. I mean, I guess one thing I'll say up front, right? This is the FlashQuotes podcast. We think that is by far the best tool for a lot of these steps. There are alternative solutions you can explore. There's HoneyBook, 17 Hats, Dubsado. Check them all out. We definitely, want to have a fair shake in competing against them, but we're going to be recommending FlashQuotes for a lot of these pieces of the puzzle, and then supplementing that with some really critical tools along the way. On website, where do you start here, Justin, for a beginner?
For website, I mean, start with some basic. I think Wix or Squarespace. I personally prefer Squarespace. There is a lot of good options out there. Chances are you're not a web designer and you don't know how to code and do crazy stuff, and you should be picking the absolute most basic, user-friendly website builder that you possibly can. And to me, those are probably Squarespace and Wix. So don't overcomplicate it. It'll be hard enough just getting your website looking how you want. So don't try. I don't recommend WordPress for most coffee caterers unless you are a very, very powerful WordPress user with a lot of experience.
Yeah, they're too complicated is usually the pitfall here. So we don't recommend WordPress and I don't recommend Webflow either for that reason. There's too much of a learning curve. Squarespace seems to be kind of the happy medium. Also, Shopify is great, especially if you're already using it for other businesses, like a lot of coffee roasters and shops also already use Shopify. Wix is okay. I think I would categorize that in the too basic category, along with like Card and some of these that are maybe not. The simplicity comes at the cost of some like look and feel and usability and SEO. But if you just want us to tell you which one to pick Squarespace is my take.
I would agree with that. I think Shopify is not a good choice unless you already have it, like Zach said, as a roaster. If you're focusing on coffee catering only, don't do Shopify.
And so when you start getting your leads, throw FlashQuotes on your website, you start getting leads, how are you thinking about beginner perspective on workflow, follow-up, relationship management?
I think it just starts with responsiveness. Zach has some really powerful data that we've pulled from the FlashQuotes database. So especially for an operator who's just started, who hasn't even done one event or whatever, 10, 20 events, that responsiveness is the number one thing, regardless of what tools you're using. So Zach, do you want to share some of the data and just some of the info and perspective on how responsiveness and speed is so critical?
Yeah. I think the hot take here is if you're still sending email, if you're still quoting by like building out a PDF and sending it through an email, you're losing a ton of business, and you need a quoting system that's going to better support you in being fast. FlashQuotes users have sent out over 50,000 quotes, which is kind of crazy to think about. And we were looking at some of this data and saw a pretty sharp correlation between how quick you send out the quote and what your booking rate is. So you can see here in this chart, if you send a quote within 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes or 5 minutes of receiving the inquiry, the average booking rate across every quote in FlashQuotes is about 23%, almost 25%. And then the longer you take to send that quote to them, the lower and lower your booking rate drops to the point where if you're not sending it within 6 hours and taking up to a day, it drops to 14%. So everything else being equal, same. This is aggregated across every company, every quote that's been sent. It's a pretty powerful story that you could drop almost 40% of your revenue by just being too slow to quote. So FlashQuotes obviously is kind of built on that premise that make it as quick and easy as possible for you to either send instant quotes or to pre-populate really good draft quotes so that you can just review and send from your phone within 5 minutes. But if we hammer home one thing today, I think you really need to to be as fast as you can with the quoting process, and make sure that you have tools that allow you to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if you're not on, we obviously have truly instant quoting where we instantly present the price to the client. We still, for those who aren't on that pro plan, we still pre-build that entire quote for you with travel fee, with service charges and with add-ons, whatever they select on their lead intake form, we will pre-build and pre-populate that entire quote for you. So if it's a pretty standard event, all you have to do is just quickly review and click send, and it will just take you a couple seconds, and you'll definitely be able to easily hit that 5-minute mark of sending out the quotes.
And from, starting out from a follow-up perspective, I think what we've seen is the speed to follow up, the speed to quoting, but you can probably start with email initially. I mean, there's sending a text personally, just from your personal phone or from a Google Voice phone number, can go a long way. But I think that's probably an area where you could get bogged down trying to automate everything. So really automating a workflow, kind of an email workflow sequence, that's probably the primary CRM, customer relationship management tool that you want in your tool belt from the beginning, is to be able to follow up really expeditiously. But we do certainly suggest texting. I know you've had a lot of success with that with Good Heart Coffee, Justin, of just getting that multimodal experience, hitting somebody up very quickly while it's top of mind for them. It can really help you stand out. And we've said this many times, that's one of your advantages as a beginner operator, the bandwidth and capacity to do that. A lot of large operators that don't automate that don't ever do that. And so you can really stand out as kind of this boutique experience, which makes a big difference.
Yeah. And you just hit people. If you're trying to call, text, and email, I mean, one of those methods is their preferred, right? I mean, and it can depend on industry, personality, what generation they're in. And so you just give yourself the best chance of actually reaching that person and then reaching them in a way that they prefer to communicate. And so that's really powerful. I mean, especially, your emails could be getting caught up in corporate, especially for, big corporate quotes. They could be get caught up in corporate firewalls and things. And so just for deliverability of quotes, which goes back to speed of quoting, you need to get them in people's hands ASAP. It's helpful to do that, or you can guarantee that happens if you're calling and texting and emailing. So
yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes people can fall into when they're just starting out is trying to do everything themselves with really simple things and tools that are available to them. One of the primary things that really can make you look like a total amateur is sending from gmail.com or, God forbid, hotmail.com, right? Like, as soon as I see, coffee now at hotmail.com, no, thank you. I'm not interested in that. So it's really, really important with some of these decisions to just pay up. It's not that expensive for a Google Workspace account. It's not that expensive for a Google Voice account. I think those are on the order of, $10, $20 a month, in that range. Pay the money, get your email with your domain, and get that instant authority. Have that separation between your personal account and your pro account, and get some workflows flowing on that email. I mean, I think that's really the thing you have to do when it comes to starting out, is don't try and build it yourself, because a lot of times that's just an excuse not to get to work. Just pay $20. Don't be cheap. Get to work on the stuff that matters, that only you can do. I mean, and I say this from experience. It's easy to get sucked into like Tinkertown, but that is a recipe for not actually going live with your business. So it's important.
I just want to call out a few things for people, because this is a really common question that we get, and maybe we'll do a whole episode on this soon. But for people who are asking, what is a CRM? My definition is it's just a tool for your sales process. It's a tool that you can track your leads and follow up with them and close them with a sale. If you're just a beginner, I think what we're kind of recommending here is just get a good Google Workspace professional email and FlashQuotes. And the FlashQuotes free tier is probably more than enough to get started with just tracking your leads, making sure they're getting quoted quickly, and tracking who, are they open, are they closing, what's happening with these leads. That's a good enough place to get started. As you grow, you'll probably want to become more sophisticated, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, but we will soon be launching FlashQuotes Plus for you to give you some more powerful email automations and replies within FlashQuotes. And that's going to be good enough for 99% of caterers, in my opinion. There are more advanced CRMs out there. People have heard of HubSpot. We talk sometimes about close.com. These are really powerful systems, but they require quite a bit of setup, and they can be very expensive. For most of you listening, you're probably good enough with just Gmail and FlashQuotes Plus. But if you're pushing the boundaries of those and you still need more customization flexibility, you've got many cities operating, you need to automate text message workflows and stuff, then talk to us about some tips on getting set up with a more sophisticated CRM system.
Yeah, I mean, where we're at right now with FlashQuotes is, when you send out a quote, when you sign up for FlashQuotes, we basically pre-build everything for you, right? So we pre-build your form, your lead intake form, your booking form, your workflows, your tasks, your admin tasks, your barista tasks, and we give you a really strong starting template so you're not just coming in with a blank slate, which can be really scary and overwhelming. That being said, when you send out your quote for the first time, we by default enroll that lead into an automated follow-up workflow sequence. It's easy to unenroll them. When on FlashQuotes Plus, we'll basically pause that workflow as soon as they reply. So we'll be sending out these emails, following up with them automatically for you. And then as soon as they reply, we pause that workflow. Organic communication begins, and hopefully the planning and booking process proceeds. One thing that's really powerful too is we have crazy good tracking and visibility into how your clients are seeing and interacting with your quotes. So we track every time they open up one of the quote emails, every time they actually view the quote, and then every time that they would click book now and have begun the booking form, which is, the most critical piece for them to finalize the booking and get you paid. So yeah, super powerful stuff. And really will be more than enough for a huge percentage of caterers.
On the payments front, there's really not a ton to say. I mean, you've got different options. You've got Square, you've got PayPal. Stripe is a very big standout in the payments processing world, and FlashQuotes integrates fully with Stripe. We find them to be extremely performant, have a lot of integrations, have a lot of cool features, and really be on the cutting edge of payment processing. Their merchant processing fees are very reasonable and competitive, and they've got some pretty cool features. I know, Justin, you were looking at some data recently for the Stripe Link platform. Maybe you can just talk a little bit about what Link is, how it can help businesses perform and get paid faster, and what you're seeing at Good Heart Coffee.
Yeah, I think when buying stuff on the internet started to get more popular, there was a big trust problem and a big payment friction problem way back in whatever it was, thousands or the 90s. Every website's checkout looked a little different, and you had to put in all this info every time. There was no concept of even pre-saving fields. I don't even think that existed back in the early 2000s. Even basic stuff like pre-populating your name, your first and last name. And so, then you see pioneers like Amazon, a huge goal for them is just reduce payment friction. And a lot of the most successful e-commerce platforms and brands really took that super seriously and said, hey, we need to reduce friction. We need to reduce time to checkout. And so, if you bought something on Amazon, it'll just take a couple clicks to finalize that. If you've bought through any other store that uses Shopify, you've probably used ShopPay, which is where it links up with your phone number, stores all your payment information, and you can use pay across many different stores, any store that uses Shopify across the internet, without having to put in your addresses and your card info and all of that stuff. So Stripe Link is their version of that, where they store your card info, your shipping address if relevant, and they just store all that safely within their Stripe cloud, or I don't know how the technical infrastructure works, but that means that any payment processor across the internet that uses Stripe, you can use Stripe Link. And so it makes it crazy frictionless for your customers to make purchases across the internet. And just this morning, I was checking in Goodhart's Stripe account, and for maybe the first time ever, more than 50% of our payments came from Stripe Link, from people who have saved their information on Stripe and are using it across the internet just so that they can pay with less friction. And, I think it's a very high trust platform, and was really crazy to see that. I feel like I've been seeing it grow for months. And then today was the first time I'd seen Stripe Link overtake manually entered card payments. And so, it's really, really powerful and a great way to just make it a seamless, stress-free, low friction experience for your clients to book your event service.
Yeah. In addition, we mentioned on a podcast a couple episodes ago around the financing opportunities that are available through Stripe as well, and that can be a really helpful tool set in helping you grow your business. So certainly recommend Stripe early on, and FlashQuotes users use Stripe to automatically invoice and get paid super quickly.
Yeah, and the alternative tools there are most commonly like people sending out Square invoices or QuickBooks invoices. Probably most commonly Square, especially for coffee caterers. But Square invoicing charges 3.4% processing, and Stripe charges 2.9%. So right away, if you're switching from Square to Stripe, which is what FlashQuotes uses, you'll be saving 0.5% on processing. And again, other invoice-only platforms have no connection to, a lot of times your operational piece or your bookings. It's just like a plain invoicing software floating out distance from all of your operational and lead data. And so anytime there's a change that needs to be made, it's not going to auto reconcile, and you may forget to change it in one or more of the many places where it needs to be changed if you do kind of have a Frankenstein system where your lead intake, your invoicing, your operations platforms don't talk to each other. It can definitely lead to a lot of things falling through the cracks, which is definitely what Goodhart experienced early on before we were using FlashQuotes.
Yeah, FlashQuotes invoicing. I mean, I'm not aware of any other software that does this, but we literally build the invoice for you and send it to them immediately, right? So someone can click book now, book you, and pay the invoice within a few clicks without you having to go type in all the line items into QuickBooks or whatever and send it off to them. And just that speed and time saving building invoices and the reduced lag time of people being able to pay it as soon as they've booked really speeds up cash flow and saves people a ton of time.
Nice. So maybe now let's kind of jump into some of the intermediate tools. And there's some tools that we can kind of leave behind where we've sort of set them, right? We've talked about CRMs. Software kind of universe there is highly recommend FlashQuotes, future FlashQuotes Plus coming. If you really want something else like a Close or a HubSpot could be good. You've got your website set. You should be able to rock and roll with that throughout your journey as an operator. You've got your payment set. So you've kind of got those in place. Now you are starting to grow. You're an intermediate operator. You are starting to deal with some things that are perhaps a little bit unique. Maybe beforehand, you or somebody like you and your spouse or something might have worked all the events. You didn't have to coordinate staff. You didn't have to think about paying yourself or paying other employees, whether they be full-time or contractors. So you start to enter this new universe of softwares and stacks, that things you can add to your stack to really help with your operations. Maybe we start with staffing and scheduling. There are some integrations and things that we do there in FlashQuotes, but I know that having a staffing software that sits alongside of that operational brain and kind of using Zapier, as you mentioned, Justin, as this intermediary layer for the systems to talk to one another has proven to be insanely valuable. Maybe if you can recall, like putting in your first, staffing software, what were the pain points that led you to think, oh my gosh, like we got to find a better way to do this because it's not working right now, whether it's just randomly texting people, but claiming shifts, knowing who's on first for these events is just not working. Take us back there, Justin.
Yeah, that's a good question. That was a long time ago, it feels like. I think the issue was like we have all these bookings, but we don't want our baristas to see all the info, and we need an interface where they can only see what's relevant to them, which is, what events are coming up and where they can request to work it or not. So yeah, like I don't remember why we switched that. I think it was just what was nice too is that a lot of these staffing softwares have apps on people's phones, and so they can alert baristas to their upcoming shift and they can see their full calendar of events. A lot of people do solve this with like a Google Calendar integration, which, we will be launching pretty soon. And we also plan to build out more robust like staffing and operational staffing solution for FlashQuotes. So then hopefully me and others can rid ourselves of these secondary staffing softwares. But for now, they are a critical piece. If you've got, I don't really know what the threshold is. I tend to see it around like 8 to 10 or more baristas that are going out on events. It becomes very hard to manage everyone's calendars and know what their availability is. So that's one of the benefits of this is baristas can go in and put in their unavailability or their availability, and they can request to work shifts, and you can have a record of like who requested to work what, and they can put in time off or offer up a shift, right? They need coverage. They can offer up a shift and another barista can accept it. So all of those complexities that start to enter the picture, now you're like running a full-on business. And so all of the staffing troubles and complexities that arise that any normal business needs, now you need that too. And so that's where things like Sling or Connect Team come into place. Otherwise, if you don't have a software like this, then all of that communication usually will have to flow through you as the business owner. And that's super stressful because you're already juggling a ton, less than you would be if you weren't using FlashQuotes, but you're juggling a lot, a lot of responsibility, a lot of tasks. And so having to flow, like be an intermediate to have staff communicate all of this stuff through you is very stressful and very time consuming. So that's why a staffing software can be so beneficial.
Yep.
Nice.
If you're just starting out and you're thinking you need a staffing software, there's a million options. It's a very competitive and dense category, but we can throw out a few that we've heard a lot or that people have had success with FlashQuotes. So I think what I would, in the entry tier, I would put Sling and maybe Homebase as kind of more basic staffing softwares that have a pretty strong free plan. I think Sling is free up to 30 employees maybe. So if you just want a free option to get going and get something working that works with Zapier and people can claim their shifts, then those are probably the places to start. There's another category which I don't know what to call them. They're more like workplace hubs. So Connect Team, Nausta would be in this category where it's more than just staffing. It's kind of sometimes they have payroll or like a Slack Lite where people can message each other and communicate. So it's kind of like a the all-in-one experience for your employees to manage their paychecks and their communications and everything. So, but those like Nausta and Connect Team, I think you'll probably end up spending at least $100 a month and upwards, depending how many people you have on your team. So just you can kind of mix and match and choose whatever sounds best for you. Whether if you use Slack already or you don't need it, you're looking for a replacement to consolidate, you might look at some of those mid-range ones that do a little bit more.
And we do have, as mentioned, quite a few FlashQuotes users that use some of these softwares. Connect Team is one of the big ones. And we have Zapier integrations that are actually pre-built to help you connect FlashQuotes to Connect Team. So you can do some pretty neat things. When an event is booked, you can automatically sync that. You can, as an available event, you can sync changes to that event timeline. You can sync to the staff that are assigned to it. So some pretty neat things you can do to automate and make sure systems are in sync and nothing is missed. So this is kind of, hey, my team has grown, so I need a way to share shifts and have shifts be claimed and keep track of who's working when. There's another thing that crops up at that point, which is how do we all talk to each other? And we just mentioned Slack, and that'll probably be the penultimate recommendation, but that's a sweet word, penultimate.
Slack is a little bit of a skill in and of itself, and to get the most out of it, I feel like you really need to understand how to structure it and how to integrate it. Most people, especially like Daniel and I have backgrounds in technology, so we've often used Slack at work and have seen like best practices for Slack. But a lot of people in the event space maybe aren't so familiar with it, and so they end up with just like the general channel, the random channel, and then and like a bunch of DMs, and nothing's organized. Justin has a ton of good use cases around automations and dedicated channels and things that baristas have to do as part of their workflow to keep everything organized and visible. So maybe explain some of those, Justin.
Yeah, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, this could almost be an entire episode of just like using Slack well. And again, it comes down to the Zapier integration where I can automate certain messages to be sent to certain channels based on certain things happening. So like, for example, I'm looking through all of our channels. Every single one of our 6 cities has 5 channels. We've got a channel where we keep track of cart photos because every barista has to verify their service start time with cart photos. So we have a cart photos channel, custom branding channel, equipment channel, which is where maintenance and repair is tracked, a general channel, which is just everybody chatting in that city, and then tasks, which is like the warehouse task for that city. So every city has those 5 channels. And then, we have like an event updates channel for every single city where we track any changes that are made to the event. So we have a record of them. Our event planner and our sales people our event planner and our operations people can track those changes that are made. And those actually come in through a form submission. And then we submit that form and then we automate it and send it in that channel. So any event updates or changes, we track that way. We like a critical equipment repair, like there's, non-critical equipment repair, like the cart's going to continue to function, but there's the critical one, which is this cart will not work without this getting repaired. We have, every time a barista completes an event, they complete an event report form, which is just asking about the quality of the information in the event brief, and it helps calculate, their mileage and hours and all of that stuff. And so we have a bunch of conditional channels that trigger when baristas report things on that event report form. So whether there's issues on the event brief, if a service starts late, if I have a Slack channel that scans my FlashQuotes every single day to see if there's any unstaffed events upcoming this week in every single city, and then it posts it automatically in that Slack channel. So I have staffing alerts, and I can see, this morning we have 5 events across a few cities that are not staffed in the next week. And so I can see that, and we have different tiers of urgency there. We have coffee ordering channels for our different cities. We have new booking alert channels. One is like an operations new booking alert. The other is like the event planner new booking alert. There's a lot of stuff. We have weekly analytics. So weekly and daily analytics. Every single day, I scan a spreadsheet of every single new booking that came in and every single new lead that came in. So I've got this business owner bird's eye view of all of our lead flow, of our booking flow. And then of course we have weekly versions of that as well. I mean, it goes on and on. We have a certificate of insurance requests. We have like a social media channel, Google review channel, which because we bonus baristas for Google reviews. So we alert the baristas every time a Google review comes in and which city it came in for. So they have complete visibility and know when to claim a bonus. There's more. Training barista channel. Let's see what else. Yeah, there's a vacation time off request. 3D printing, what else? Yeah, that's probably the bulk of it. And I think there's even more channels that my teams have started that I may not even be aware of that they just organically evolved. And so there's a ton you can do here. And so much of it is automated because I am triggering these different automatic messages to be posted in Slack. Of course, as well, new leads, right? Like my event planners get an alert in Slack for every new lead, and we actually categorize that as well. There's a red, yellow, green system categorization of urgency based on either how close the event is or a dollar amount threshold. So this has taken us probably 4 years to evolve this usage of Slack, and it's incredibly powerful. And I don't think actually GoodHeart could function well without Slack at this point because of the team communication and then all the automations and alerts that are happening in Slack, every minute of every day in all of our cities. So it's, I guess strange that I've never talked so passionately about Slack before because it really is critical to us.
No, that was great, man. I would encapsulate my takeaways from that in a few things. So if you have a Slack that feels like a rat's nest of communication and you can't find anything, like try a few of these things. One, basically every topic should have a channel. Like if it's an ongoing topic of conversation, it should have its own channel. General should look at what's in your general channel because it should basically be like company-wide updates, and that's basically it, right? There should not be like event-specific conversations going on in there. There should not be, training or whatever, anything other than like Like most companies I've worked at, the general channel is just like the CEO, posting once a month with like what's going on. Because every team, every function, every recurring task has a. That's the best way to get the best use of Slack, so that you can know where to find everything, and then maybe train your team and yourself on like Slack politeness or Slack hygiene. Like don't use @channel is kind of an unwritten rule in most companies I've worked at. Use @here very sparingly, and only if it's really like I need to ping everyone in this channel right now to like look at this thing. So @channel, for those who don't know, is kind of like a broad a blast that notifies everyone, even if they're offline, even if they're at dinner with their family, whatever, like a push notification, which is why it's kind of frowned upon unless it's like an emergency. @here is kind of the more polite, less intrusive mention mechanism to kind of following people's notification preferences, notify everyone like, hey, you need to look at something in this channel. And then otherwise, just use DMs or use your judgment so that channels don't get clogged up if they're critical. Or if you notice like, hey, our bookings channel, I can't even find the booking information because there's too much chatter going on. Maybe that's a clue. You maybe need to split out a different channel for like chit chat.
Yeah. And, we use emojis a lot to like acknowledge things. Let's say there is an event update and there's a staffing change or something like that. The relevant person might initially just tag it with some eyeballs like, okay, I've seen this. And then, okay, check mark. I've like resolved this. This is now complete. We can both forget about it. But that system of acknowledging and kind of almost giving an emoji status indicator of where an action item can be really helpful for visibility to everyone. So it does require some building out of the systems, especially if you're going to be using Zapier. But even more, like Zach is talking about, it requires some hygiene. It requires some training from your team. And it does require some creativity based on the use cases that will actually be most beneficial for your businesses. Like a lot of this stuff, it was my team who was like, what would be really nice if we had this, and oh wow, like that's brilliant. Like, why did I not think of that? I'm gonna build that right away. And that's kind of how we've evolved all these things. I didn't like sit in in my castle and try to just like think this stuff up out of nowhere without like really critical context and feedback. These are all like organic evolutions of real people communicating in Slack that made suggestions, and then we implemented it. So you'll have that too, but get started today because you want your team to start building familiarity and comfort with Slack.
Subtle reminder for me not to use @channel. I didn't even know that, Zach, because
I didn't either.
You can tell when you work at a big company, you're just stuck with Microsoft Teams. You don't learn these etiquettes of the fast and smooth.
You don't learn Slack culture,
man. Slack culture 101. All right. I'm sorry for my @channel. They're for product updates. I'm just so excited. I want you to see it, even at dinner.
Yeah.
All right.
Send me a push notification and an email and a text like,
I
shit,
know.
hang on, I have something to say.
Oh my gosh, it's an emergency. No, just a product update. My bad. Just one other thing that kind of sprung to mind as you were talking there, Justin, is what percentage of the efficiency and value you get from Slack would you say goes away without the automations?
Man, I don't know. I think there'd be still a ton of value. It's the reason I built the automations though is because a lot of times I got sick of asking for additional information from my team. They're like, oh, this, I need to especially when I was in these roles, and I think it hurt other people too, because it created a lot more communication bottlenecking, because someone would, share an event update, but they would forget to include the client name or date or city or some critical piece of information. And so then there was a bunch of back and forth chatter just to clarify where this event update and where this information needed to be viewed and updated. And so that's why we almost tend to prefer form submissions that then feed into a Slack update, because then I know that like you can't communicate this, you can't submit this form without putting in this required information. It just helps with the Slack hygiene, because if you see an event update come through, it has absolutely everything in there that the other person needs to take action and to look up the information and change it where they need to. And so that is kind of my preferred method: form submission to Slack channel update, which then we begin the like organic back and forth from there. That was a big one, because I got so sick of being like, what is the date? What's the client name? What's the city?
Yeah. What is that a Slack? Is that native Slack forms or some other like Google form that feeds into Slack? Or
any form with Zapier integration can do this.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like if you want to take on Slack and like really use it to its full potential, you got to get comfortable with connecting it to other services. I mean, that's got to be a part of your playbook, I feel, to really squeeze out the value that you were able to get out of it.
I think I'll take the other side of that a little bit, which I think Slack is, even without all the automations, I think it's a step function better than coordinating with your team via email and text, because just because it's searchable, if you forget to put one person on the email or the text, like you can add them in later to the channel in Slack, and they can have all the history. If a lot of critical stuff is happening in your emails and texts with your team, Slack will probably save you a lot of headache and a lot of hassle, like tracking information down. And the other pro tip for Slack, kind of related to that, is channels can be disposable. Don't feel like they have to be this long living thing. Like if you have one big crazy event coming up, just make a channel for it. Make a South by Southwest channel and just go put all the shit in there until the event's over, and then delete the channel. Because at least that way it's all in one place and everyone can see it. So I think you can get a ton of value out of it, just as a better communication tool. But the automations definitely take it to the next level.
Yeah, and text messaging too is like, notoriously, iPhones have terrible search functionality in text messages. Why is that? I don't know. But Slack doesn't, right? If you nail a keyword, you can pull up and find what you need by searching a keyword in Slack. And so searchability, and then, which I've talked about before, if you have all that data in Slack, you can export it and train an AI on all of that information and have a second brain. So that's another big topic. But yeah, every time you and your team communicate in Slack, you're basically generating trainable data for an AI that's personalized for your business, if you so choose.
Yeah. So do we have any? I don't think we put any alternatives for Slack. It's just kind of like go get Slack, or
I mean,
suffer
I know that some people, have used, there's like some messaging functionality in these other staffing softwares, right? Like Sling and Connect Team for sure have staff communication functionality. What's the other one it's the one we used to use gaming growing up? Why can't I remember
Discord?
that?
Yeah.
Discord is huge, and I think it's more affordable. I just didn't have the heart to switch over, and I don't quite think it's got some of the automation functionality we needed. Slack can get expensive. So, I mean, that's true. We have a lot of people on Slack, and I pay quite a bit every month for it, but I don't know. I guess I have to.
Maybe let's jump into some related to people and bringing on a team is payroll and human resources and kind of the nitty gritty of that operational world. And related to that is accounting. How do I actually account for what I'm doing? How do I get out of a Google Sheet into something that's a bit more robust and complete there? I mean, on the accounting side, what we see a lot is usage of QuickBooks is very pervasive. That's a very popular tool set. It's also one of the more expensive cloud-based accounting softwares. You've also got Xero, Xero, which is a cheaper option, and I've played around with that a little bit, but QuickBooks seems to be the way to go for right now. FlashQuotes fully integrates with QuickBooks on our Pro plan, so you can have automated accounting of invoices and automatic reconciliation, and a lot of the other options in the quoting tool space will integrate with QuickBooks too, which is another big benefit. Kind of similar thematically with what we were just talking about with Slack, the ability for these things to talk to each other, and a company that plays well in that space is going to be great. All that said, you could definitely get me doing a whole episode about my gripes with QuickBooks, but I just don't think there's really any other great, excellent solutions out there. If you're a listener and you're building an amazing accounting software that is simple and covers 90% of the bases, give us a shout and maybe we can integrate with you. What about the HR front and the payroll front, Justin? What have you been using at Good Heart Coffee and what's worked well?
Yeah, I like Gusto. I think it's just so many people have used it. So many people who join Goodheart have already used Gusto at other jobs and are comfortable with it. They can kind of view, they can fill out all their paperwork there easily. It's got great just visibility on both sides and really user friendly, and will remind you about upcoming holidays and things like that where you need to run payroll early to make sure you don't get your people paid late, and that sort of stuff. So it's just kind of a best-in-class solution and very user-friendly, and I'm definitely a big fan of it. So.
Nice. All right, so we got some easy ones there. We just do what we're saying, and you'll rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah, for the 90% of us who just are falling asleep during this segment, yeah, just get QuickBooks and Gusto and move on and forget about this part.
All right, Zach. Sexy analytics, understanding what's going on in your business with your website, with your leads, what gets measured gets managed. The famous adage, it's critical to know what you're looking at and measuring the right thing. So take us down the analytics rabbit hole for more riveting things than finance.
Yeah. So once you get to like a mid-size and a growth mindset, and you're starting to think about how do I get more leads? How do I get more traffic to my website? How do I convert more of that traffic? Yeah, that could be a deep rabbit hole. But the starting point is you just need to be able to measure basically how many people are hitting your pages. What are they doing when they get there? Are they clicking get a quote or not? So that you can begin to understand how well you're capturing the traffic that you're driving, because you can rank well with SEO, you can run a bunch of ads, but if people aren't actually getting to your website and inquiring with you or booking you, then there's a lot of low-hanging fruit and work you got to do. So there's a lot of directions you can go with the analytics world. I would say Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager is probably the gold standard, and I want to hear Justin's take on this too. They are really complicated and notoriously kind of a pain in the butt. So I think your options are either kind of pay an expert, pay an SEO or a pay-per-click advertising person to instrument your website, which that's just tech speak for hook up all the tracking on all the pages and all the buttons and the conversion events and all that stuff so that you can see it in a dashboard. Or there are some pretty good simple alternatives. I'll shout out Fathom Analytics, Beam Analytics, Simple Analytics, Plausible Analytics. There's a whole category of these companies that have been built on the back of like, hey, Google Analytics sucks. Like, what if we made one that was really easy and cost $15 a month instead of free? So if that sounds more up your alley, then look at one of those. But if you're planning on running a lot of Google ads and trying to do conversion tracking on those things, then you probably want to be in the Google world, and you probably just need to get some help setting that stuff up, or spend a lot of time in YouTube rabbit holes learning GA4. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I use this stuff heavily, but I don't know a ton about configuring it because I have had, people do it for me. Yeah, like you've got to have your what is it? I forget which Google product. Oh, just your Google Search Console is a critical one, especially for SEO and organic traffic and seeing what people are searching for and that sort of stuff. So a Google Search Console is a critical one. Yeah, you do need it. I did not set it up. And well, a lot of SEO people will set this stuff up for you because it's critical for them to show their worth, right? Like they have nothing to show you, no hard data to show you if they're not hooking up this stuff. Probably one of the biggest red flags is if you have a ads or SEO person who doesn't hook this stuff up for you because they need it to do their job. They have to hook it up to do their job. And so that's when it got instrumented, I think, or whatever. That's when people put it on our website, is people helping us out with that stuff. So yeah, I look at it a lot, but I did not set it up. I'm a viewer, but not a person who can configure it. So
Cool. All right. Last but not least, we have automations and some AI integration opportunities. I think for speed, we've already hit on a lot of these automations. To reemphasize, we think Zapier is one of the best and easiest, most user-friendly ways for connecting services together. You don't need to know how to code for these systems to talk to each other. And anytime you're moving information or data from one system to another, you should have a little light bulb moment that says, oh, I could use Zapier or automation to do this. We think automated follow-ups are going to be a huge game changer for you if you're not using them. So if somebody asks for a quote them and then follow up over and over again to make sure you're on their radar. FlashQuotes can handle automated workflows and follow up for you. There's some alternatives from Pipedream, String.com, Make.com, alternatives to Zapier, but go check those out. But we think that's going to be really valuable. Lastly, AI integration. This is an evolving space. We've done a lot of different chats about AI, some that are explicitly about AI, but this is an amazing tool that's at your fingertips. That's always changing. It can be a little bit cumbersome and difficult to keep up with, which is probably why we keep talking about it a lot, to share our learnings so that you don't have to go into the weeds and can get some insights from us. But there's lots of different ways that this has been used. Maybe we start with you, Zach, on AI. I mean, how do you think about AI in business? Is it, there's been talk now of, is AI a bubble? There was a recent McKinsey report that was super fascinating about like 95% of AI initiatives not leading to meaningful increases in values for large companies, but there was some insights that came out of that for smaller companies that are doing it right. How do you think about AI in running a business, running FlashQuotes and being a part of this team? And how should event businesses think about just starting to use it?
It's essential. If you're not using it, you're falling behind. FlashQuotes as a business couldn't exist without AI. We leverage it so heavily every single day. So that's my take. It's not going to surprise anyone. We're documented AI bulls on this podcast, and go back to our AI highlights episode if you want to learn more. But at a high level, like, you should be using Claude to do all of your business writing. Probably you should have it improve your copywriting on your website. You should have it improve your SEO. You should have it help you write better, more interesting and captivating cold emails. It can help you do better on your social media if you want to write better captions and clips and hooks for your Instagram to try and go viral. All of that stuff Claude can do better. Claude plus you with your flavor and your knowledge of the business can do better than you without an AI. So that's like the no-brainer that everyone should do. There's a million other things that we've talked about that you could go down in the rabbit hole with, like chat-based, having a custom AI chatbot on your website to answer customer questions. I'm getting really nerding out lately on Claude Code for non-code use cases. So some of you may have heard of this product, Claude Code, which is just kind of an agent, an AI agent on your computer that you can do all kinds of stuff with, like automating. Some of these Zapier workflows that we've talked about could almost be automated as a Claude by just typing into Claude Code, like, go do this thing. And if you give it access to the MCPs to talk to your Slack and your FlashQuotes and everything else, right? You can build a little robot that can do stuff for you. So that's pretty cool if you really want to go down the deep end. But start small and with what makes sense, because there's just a ton of cheap value at $20 a month that you can get with some of these products that will make your business better and make you the ROI is way over $20 a month, right? If your copy's better, if you're selling better, if your website's better, things like that.
Nice. There's a quote in these notes, probably generated by AI, so take it for what it's worth, because maybe AI is trying to stay alive longer. But AI isn't replacing your business, but businesses using AI are replacing your business. Are replacing businesses that don't. I thought that was actually a pretty good quote, right? Less worrying about your business disappearing from AI itself and some AI overlord, and more the speed and efficiency of businesses that are embracing this and leveraging it, I think is going to be a major differentiator. It certainly has been for us. All right, honorable mention, Loom. I actually love Loom. It's a really well-built app, and it has a cool free plan, so you can just get in there and take advantage of it for no cost. Tell me how you use Loom at Goodheart, Justin, for training and just sharing videos.
Yeah, any training of any software interface should probably be a Loom video, like regardless of what company you're at or anything. Like, it's just such a game changer. Have you ever tried to navigate a visual software interface based on written words? It's terrible. It's the worst. It takes so long, and that interface might have been updated. It's bonkers. Video, and we've talked about this before. Video is top of funnel for training anyone on anything, because if you have video, even if it's a physical task, we train our warehouse, equipment repairs, brewing guides, whatever, how to set up the cart. It all starts with video, because then you can scrape the transcripts, feed it into AI, create a step-by-step guide. And the same is true with Loom. Like, you've got to be training your people using a recorded Loom video so they can see the interface, and then you've got a top of funnel training source for written documentation after that. It's an absolute no-brainer if you're training an admin team, for sure, or an admin person, for sure.
Yeah, loom.com, loom.com. No affiliation, but definitely a user and love it. One other quick tool that I think we all use, I use regularly, is called Whisper Flow, which is an amazing tool. Not so much, it's more of an individual tool, but it essentially has a phenomenal voice to text recognition software that you can run on your computer. And I just imagine a little bubble that's almost imperceptible. You start talking, it captures everything. It even synthesizes it to make it simpler and more succinct. And then you stop talking, press a button, it pastes that text wherever you have your cursor on your computer. and you can paste it, and you can go look at the history of what you got from speech to text. It is absolutely wonderful. It's an amazing tool for, sharing, talking to your team, chatting with AI systems when you don't want to do pure voice to voice. It's a really, really good app. Well worth the cost, and has a generous free tier to start.
Yeah. Once you start talking instead of typing to your computer, you'll never go back. Like anyone who spends a lot of time typing at a keyboard as part of their work would probably save 2 hours a day or something. I mean, it feels crazy, the productivity gains that I get from talking instead of typing, right? Just in my emails, my Slacks. Obviously, prompting AI is a huge one, right? If you want to prompt AI well, you need to talk, or you need to give it long prompts, and you can talk way faster than you can type. So definitely check it out if you spend a lot of time at a computer.
Yep. Second that, the quality of outputs you're going to get from AI are dictated by the quality of context and inputs. And so, to Zach's point, to be able to do a huge, just free flow association, verbal context dump is a complete game changer for the output you will get from AI.
Nice. Well, if you feel like we covered so many tools that I can't even recap that list, you are absolutely 100% correct. But fortunately, we're going to send a list of these tools in a really awesome PDF as a go get it accessible link that you can have reference to in the future, and help guide you through all these options and all these different verticals as you go through your journey as a pro within the event business space. So to get that, all you have to do is go to flashquotes.com/software-tools, and you'll be able to enter your email, and we will send you that awesome, magical, beautiful PDF. I know it will be beautiful because I think Zach's going to build it, and he has amazing design sense.
AI is going to build it, and I'll edit it.
Dude, break free.
Why waste my time? I have one hot take here. What is one software tool that event caterers do not need that they almost all have, or many of them have?
Wait, what is it? I don't know.
It's a POS system.
Yeah.
If you have a coffee shop, maybe you need a POS system. But if you're a caterer, you don't need one. Why do you not need one, Justin?
Because you shouldn't be accepting payment by the cup. You should only be
Ever.
doing contracted invoice catering.
That's right. So ditch your POS and start making real money by catering private events prepaid. That's. If you've listened to all the stories on this podcast, anyone who started down the path of slinging lattes one cup at a time quickly realized that that's the road to misery. And there are greener pastures in the private catering world. So ditch your POS and cater more.
Love it. I need a shirt. No payment by the cup. That could be a good one.
Yeah.
Our stickers, flash quotes, no payment by the cup.
POS.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks guys for hanging out. Appreciate all your wisdom. And as always, just hit us up on YouTube or elsewhere if you have other topics or anything you want to hear more about. But hopefully this tools episode will be helpful. Actually, quick shout out. Cynthia at Always Kind was the one who, FlashQuotes user and friend of ours, is the one that asked about this. So hopefully, Cynthia, this meets your expectations. If not, you can talk to Justin. Bye.
See you on the next one.